We've actually been telling ghost stories for thousands of years. One of the oldest documented ghost story was found on pieces of broken pottery, dating back over 12,000 BC. Years later, and we're still telling them, albeit in a different and more advanced forms, from the simple text-based story to the footage found on videos on YouTube. True ghost stories are the perfect way to give yourself a fright. Perhaps one of the oldest real-life ghost stories in documented history is the 12,000 BC tale from Egypt that was found on some pieces of broken pottery. The story of the ghost stuck in a tomb, who complains of being stuck in the darkness and never seeing the light. And we never quite learn this man was doomed to eternal darkness. The ancient Egyptians were very spiritual and believed strongly in the afterlife, which goes some way to explaining the origin of the story. The Skirrid Inn, Abergavenny. If you're looking for ghost stories in the UK, the tale of Wales is sure to be one to fit the bill. The Skirrid Inn is best known for being one of the most haunted spots in the country, and with good reason. Wales' oldest inn has stood for over 900 years. The first floor was a courthouse. 180 felons were convicted there, and they still regularly return.
Roman Senator Pliny the Younger, who died in AD 113, told a ghost tale so haunting that it survives to this day. There was at Athens a large and roomy house, which had a bad name, so that no one could live there. In the dead of the night, a noise, resembling the clashing of iron, was frequently heard, which, if you listened more attentively, sounded like the rattling of chains, disturbances that led to the appearance of a spectre form of an old man, of extremely emaciated and squalid appearance, with a long beard and disheveled hair, rattling the chains on his feet and hands. Needless to say, the house was abandoned and had to be rented out for a cheap price. When a philosopher named Athenodorus heard the story, he reportedly rented the house and confronted the ghost. The ghost appeared and rattled around before vanishing. Athenodorus calmly marked the spot where the ghost vanished, and in the morning, ordered that the spot be dug up, the story goes. This was accordingly done, and the skeleton of a man in chains was found there, for the body, having lain a considerable time in the ground, was putrefied and molded away from the chains. After being given a proper burial, the ghost departed, and the house was haunted no more, according to Pliny's tale. Translation from Pliny the Younger, The Harvard Classics, 1909 to 1914. Boarded up bath house. The writer Plutarch, who lived from AD 45 to 120, tells a ghost story that has a much sadder ending than the one from Athens. In the city of Chaironeia, Greece, there was a boy named Damon who attracted the attention of a Roman military commander, who apparently loved him, historical records suggest. Damon refused the commander's advances, enraging him. Knowing that he would be killed if he did nothing, Damon got a group of friends together, ambushed the Roman commander, and several other Roman soldiers, killing them. The city council of Chaironeia condemned Damon and his friends to death. After that proclamation, Damon, who had not been killed, had the council members killed. Damon and his friends then took to the countryside, plundering it. Eventually, the townspeople allowed Damon to return, but he was killed shortly afterward in the local bathhouse. And because, for a long while thereafter, certain phantoms appeared in the place, and groans were heard there, as our fathers tell us, the door of the vapor bath was walled up, and to this present time, the neighbors think it the source of alarming sights and sounds, Plutarch wrote. Translation from Loeb Classical Library, 1914. The Tower of London. Britain's numerous castles are hotspots for ghost stories. The 900-year-old Tower of London is said to contain numerous ghosts, and the Queen's House is considered by Tower officials to be one of the most haunted places. Among the ghosts in the Queen's house is that of Arabella Stuart, cousin of King James I. Arabella made the mistake of marrying against the king's wishes and was sent to the Tower as punishment. According to the ghost story, she is still serving her time. In another spooky tale, a phantom bear is said to haunt one section of the Tower of London, called the Martin Tower. A guard who saw the phantom bear is said to have dropped dead from the shock. The Tower of London served as a menagerie for part of its history and held a variety of animals, including bears. Akigahara Woods. Image credit: Sean Pavoni, Shutterstock.com. At Akigahara Woods, located at the foot of Mount Fuji in Japan, the corpses of dozens of suicide victims have been found over the past 2 decades, and the forest has become a popular place for troubled Japanese citizens to end their lives. Today, there are signs in the forest urging people not to end their lives and asking them to seek help. Given the number of suicides that have occurred in the forest, ghost stories abound, including several alleged encounters with the apparitions of those who have died there, which can be seen on YouTube. Exorcism of Roland Doe. Image credit: photography.eu, shutterstock.com. In 1949, a boy from Cottage City, Maryland, who was referred to as Roland Doe, not his real name, underwent an exorcism performed by a group of Roman Catholic priests, accounts suggest. There are conflicting reports as to Roland's alleged powers. Some stories claim that Roland had supernatural strength, could speak in ancient languages that the boy had no knowledge of, and could apparently move or levitate the mattress he was lying on. Since 1949, investigators have called into question many of these claims, providing evidence to suggest that Roland was a psychologically troubled boy who hated to attend school, and that his abilities were far from supernatural. In any event, the exorcism took place. The events inspired a 1971 novel called The Exorcist by William Peter Blatty, which, in turn, inspired the famous 1973 movie Brown Lady of Raynham Hall. Image credit: photo by Hubert Prevand, published in Country Life magazine in 1936, courtesy of Wikimedia. In 1936, a photographer taking pictures of the 300-year-old Raynham Hall in Norfolk, UK, captured an image of an apparition floating down the stairs. It's one of the most famous ghost photos ever taken, although some experts believe it was caused by double exposure. The manor, covering an area of 7,000 acres, 2,833 hectares, has a long history of being haunted, and the BBC notes that the ghost may be of Lady Dorothy Townshend, the wife of the second Viscount of the estate. She died in 1726, supposedly of smallpox, after having an affair, which her husband Lord Townshend had learned about before her death. She is said to still wander the manor dressed in brown. The CCTV Ghost. Image credit: Ghost Watching or YouTube. Hampton Court Palace in Surrey, England, has a photogenic ghost of its own. In 2003, a CCTV camera caught an image of a skeletal figure, clad in centuries-old clothes, closing a sturdy fire door that had flung open. The ghost, nicknamed Skeletor, attracted a great deal of media attention. It wasn't just security staff who thought they were seeing things. A visitor wrote in the palace's visitor book on the day that Skeletor appeared on camera that she too thought she had seen a ghost in that area, officials wrote on the Hampton Court Palace website. Skeletor is not the only ghostly inhabitant of Hampton Court Palace. Catherine Howard, one of Henry VIII's wives, was imprisoned there and was supposedly dragged to her room, screaming all the way. The area that she haunts is called the Screaming Gallery. Amityville. Image credit: courtesy Wikimedia, released into public domain. The Amityville haunting is perhaps the most famous ghost story in America. Ronald DeFeo Jr. was convicted for the 1974 killing of his mother, father and 4 of their children at their home in Amityville, New York. Reports indicate that the gun Ronald used didn't have a silencer, and there was no sign of a struggle inside the house, facts that left investigators puzzled. In 1975, a new family, the Lutzes, moved into the Amityville home, having bought it at a discounted price. They lived there for less than a month. During that time, voices were heard around the house. Their daughter developed an imaginary friendship with a red-eyed pig called Jody. The house attracted swarms of flies. There was banging on the walls and the furniture was said to move on its own, according to reports from the family. Paranormal investigators Ed and Lorraine Warren were called in to investigate, and they also reported encountering paranormal phenomena. Ed Warren said he was pushed to the floor of the basement by an unknown force.